Hey YouTube, I'm here to talk about movie critics and how I kind of feel about it right now. I know I normally talk about other stuff, but this has to be said because it does kind of tie into what I normally talk about. And I know my playoff beard's still here, but Warriors fan. I'm from the Bay Area, I have to be, and they're still in it, so this is gonna stay for a few more weeks. So movie critics. Here's what spurred this whole thing. Uh, Godzilla King of the Monsters had a weaker opening than expected. The first one that came out in 2014 had an opening of about 80 million for the weekend. This one, King of the Monsters that just came out, had an opening of about 50 million, so $30 million short of what is arguably a movie that had more uh, effort put into it. And I was wondering, like, why did this happen? It's a more exciting movie, it seems, in theaters. There's more reactions. The trailer was better, better marketing, better poster, better art. Um, and upon research, I came across a critical review, well, just the Rotten Tomatoes Metascore. The Rotten Tomatoes Metascore for Godzilla King of the Monsters right now is about 40 something, 44% maybe. So 40% of a Metascore for a movie is not good. It's definitely a green splat. And movie box office performance of late has been heavily contingent on critical reviews. So we'll talk about Godzilla King of the Monsters for a second, because I did just do a review, so I'm not going to really go into what I think about the movie in this video. But there are things in the movie that aren't good story-wise. But something I did say in my review is that's okay. It's a Godzilla movie. Godzilla movies aren't known for their story, and this movie it's a good, fun experience. You have to let go of um you have to let go of any need for a great story when it comes to a movie like this. Um, and this is just something that movie critics are really bad at. They can't turn off that brain that they have of what I like to call the Arthurian critic. Auteur is French word for like an artist who drives a ship or something. I don't know the exact definition, but it's a word that is used to describe um, like a movie director who has his hand in everything. Alfred Hitchcock was an auteur. Arthurian critic, though, is a word that's basically described like a critic who wanted to be a director but couldn't pull it off. So he just ended up being a movie critic instead. Yeah, there's a lot of that in Hollywood kind of spreading right now, and it's really annoying. Uh, Another good example is there's a lot of critics who will make some sort of statement based off of the review. They'll review something very poorly because of one little thing that was wrong with the movie. Good example, Captain Marvel was very poorly reviewed. Um, and In fact, Captain Marvel was the movie that led to Rotten Tomatoes to start implementing a policy. If you are a verified critic, you have to provide your movie ticket or some sort of proof that you saw the movie, because there was a reviewer who didn't even see the movie, and he was stupid enough to openly mention that in the review he wrote, that he hadn't seen the movie. Yeah, and he gave it a really bad score. So that's messed up. Um, Captain Marvel wise, I saw the movie. It was one of my least favorite Marvel movies. Um, but it was still an enjoyable experience, and I would still give it a B in terms of uh, overall score. Yes, there was something in that movie I didn't like in terms of political statements they were making that pulled from the overall experience in the movie, but I wouldn't destroy the whole score over one little gripe I have with the movie. And that's what happened to Captain Marvel. And what's happening in Godzilla, I think, it is uh, thanks to what is happening a lot in the movie industry. Is there's a lot of people who are very upset about the current state of movies, where what's making all the money are like the Marvel movies. 23 movies in 11 years, and they're all making at least $500 million, it seems. Some a little less, but yeah, they don't like that these big blockbuster features are taking the lion's share of the box office. But what these critics don't understand is that's inevitable. Psychologically, it's inevitable. Jordan Peterson, actually, in a couple of his lectures, he was talking about intelligence privilege, at least what I call intelligence privilege. I forget what he said, what he called it, but he pointed out that around 40% of people, maybe it was 30 something percent, but a big chunk of people, the general population, can't sit through a movie. Like doesn't go to movies because they can't sit through just even a normal movie, let alone an artistic feature. So, of that big percentage of people who can't sit through a movie, think about how many of those who can't sit through an art feature. Um, it's inevitable. People aren't going to invest their time and money into an art feature when they have the choice of a you don't have to think about it, yet you're really entertained feature. There, of course, is the extreme, which I am not a big fan of this, that every Transformers movie has made over $1 billion, it seems. And the fifth highest grossing feature of all time is Fast and Furious 8. Those movies, in my opinion, are ones that could try harder when it comes to story, make movies a little better, the overall uh, aspect of the cinematic experience. But these critics who can't turn off the Arturian brains don't understand that that's a like the lowest common denominator is a thing, and people who are with their low scores who will like there's someone who gave Avengers Endgame like a D. Like those people who give those type of scores don't understand what the fire they're actually playing with. Another huge factor to keep in mind is that these scores are a deciding factor for people to go to movies. Like as I mentioned, there's time and money, and really your average moviegoer will only see a couple movies a year, but people who love movies will probably see movies like once a month. When it comes to that 1 month, you have a choice. You can see like this movie, this movie, or this movie. What are you gonna choose? I don't know. All the trailers are great. All these movies look so amazing. I want to see all of them. Let's check the critic score. See, like which one I actually want to see. Oh, Captain Marvel. That's a Marvel film. Aren't they all good? But this Metascore is like 10%. That can't be good. I won't watch that. Oh, Godzilla. 40%? Oh man, I love the first one, but this one's 40%. So I can't risk my 2 hours and $20 with ticket and popcorn and soda to go see this movie. I'll go see Booksmart instead. You probably want to be Booksmart if they're trying to make that decision. I'll go see the Pokemon movie, or I'll go see Rocket Man, or I'll go see Avengers Endgame again. Um, yeah, so something that people need to be better at is being critically honest and have less of this entirely based on story score. Um, and in my opinion, there needs to be more of a proving ground when it comes to critics, because it's pretty loose right now. In terms of a proving ground, to talk about my critical experience, I have never been paid to make reviews of movies, but I have been published on reviews of movies. And the way I got into that door was I went to Cal State Northridge. I have a degree in television production, emphasis on sound design. And I went to Ohlone College. It was a really good television program. I got a broadcasting degree from there. But in my studies at Cal State Northridge, actually at Ohlone too, I took film classes. But at Cal State Northridge, part of my degree is I have to take multiple screenwriting classes, including which is critical analysis. And critical analysis is one of the hardest classes I ever took. Critical analysis, we would watch 4 movies a week, not by our choice. We had to watch those movies, and each movie we had to watch a different, had to apply a different critical perspective on. Um, and each of those movies we had to write a 10-page paper on. So every week for the entire semester, I was writing 40 pages of critical movie reviews and being harshly graded on it. I barely passed that. I don't even know if I passed that class. I think I got like a C or C minus. Yeah, so very intense. And actually, I have a colleague who also went to Cal State Northridge in the early 90s, and she had that same professor I had in the like early 2000s. Oh no, early 2010s is when I was going to university. Point being is, I went through all of that uh, hard work to learn how to do a honest critical review, and I still, before I publish a review or post a review even on YouTube, is I will watch other critics or read other critics' reviews to check myself. Because so often I have issues, and I think everyone has these issues at times. Sometimes I have rose tinted glasses when it comes to movies. Godzilla wise, I definitely have rose tinted glasses with that movie. I'm a huge Godzilla fan. Godzilla fan. Saw it twice already, even if the story isn't the best. Um, and I still had to like watch reviews and check myself and be like, okay, am I coming from a too rose tinted category? The other issue I sometimes have is as opposed to rose tintedness is I can be spiteful. Captain Marvel is a good example. I was angry about the third act and the song choice of that last fight scene, but after checking myself, I was able to make a calm and collected review. And sometimes I just talk to people like, what did you think of this? I always see movies with people. My wife goes to movies with me. Sometimes I'll go with my family, my siblings, or my parents, or friends, and always talk. What do you think of this scene? And what do you think of this story? And what do you think of these? And having the feedback also helps me formulate a thing. Um, and I think too often critics are too heavily dependent on story when it comes to uh, their their review scores. Like, oh, the story was dumb. I give this an F, entirely based on the story. But in my opinion, the story is just part of the big picture that's been put together. And what I do in defense of, to check myself in terms of that too, is I will put 50% of the score would be the technical aspects and 50% would be the storytelling. And of the technical aspects, there's 5 aspects. I have this written down somewhere, but it's not with me. Let's see if I can remember. There's the post-production, like the editing pace and the quality of editing, cinematography, the sound design, the score, and the visual effects. Those are the 5 I have. And then that's 50% of the score and 50% of the score is story. So if, like Godzilla-wise, Godzilla for me was like a 90 on this 50, and then like a 40 or 50 in the story category, evens out to uh, like a B minus. Um, Right. So critics need to do that, or things like that, to prevent stuff like Godzilla happening, or stuff like Captain Marvel happening. In closing, I think it's really important for websites like Rotten Tomatoes to be better at policing random, terrible reviews that don't make sense. Because obviously, like, each person is very subjective, and it's important for critics to be very objective. And Rotten Tomatoes, uh, as a whole, is like overflowing with subjective critics, and it's negatively affecting the box office performance of movies that definitely deserve more money. And Hollywood as a whole kind of needs to figure this out, because um, movies are an industry that, or just one movie alone, you grants thousands of jobs and puts thousands of meals on the tables of people, hardworking families, um, and bad critic reviews diminishes the power of that industry, which diminishes the economic strength of people working in that industry. For example, back to Godzilla King of the Monsters, they must have hired like a couple hundred VFX artists who work their butts off all day, slaving over shadow placement and light sources of monsters, um, pulling 12 to 15-hour days, and sometimes sleeping in the edit bays they're working in. People will do that, and if their movie doesn't perform, that's it. The production company isn't going to continue the franchise. In fact, 2020, it post-credit scene confirms that they want to have another Godzilla movie. But if this movie doesn't perform much better than it's currently performing, if it falls off on performance, they might pull that franchise. They might, like, all right, well, the Godzilla King of the Monsters was a good movie, but it didn't make as much as we wanted, so we can't justify making a third movie. Therefore, all you VFX artists who work so hard for us, you guys can't keep making this movie, or you can't come back with us for the project because the project is canceled. Sorry, go back home to without a job next year. And that happens, and it's sad and hard. It's a harsh reality of that industry. Um, and these critics who are just keyboard courage, write whatever they feel, say whatever they want, ignore just the average moviegoer who has no idea what they're talking about, who only looks at the score, doesn't read the review, only looks at the Metascore, doesn't go through the reviews, honestly. Uh, can't turn their damn Arturian brain off, and will campaign to prevent the success of Godzilla King of the Monsters, by example. And yeah, I get it. I don't like that Fast and Furious 8 has made the fifth most amount of any movie ever made. But I understand why, because people go to movies to escape from reality and just have a good time, and just to see explosions and not get really invested in the story. Turn their brain off for a few hours and go home and sleep and wake up and go to work the next day. They don't need the stimulation of like Memento to try and figure out a story, or watch. Fight Club's a good movie too, but like, try and watch like Fight Club or something, or I don't know, let's get deeper. Like, watch like Ex Machina. Oh, Ex Machina is so good. I'm just trying to think of existential movies. Uh, like there's a reason why Alien is so much more successful than Prometheus. You know, it's yeah, it's the average person is just wants to escape, and you're and honestly, you writing a bad review of Godzilla, getting enough people out there doing that, may even stop a person from going to the movies for their month because like I wanted to see Godzilla, but this review is bad, so I won't go out to see it, and that's not a good thing. You want the movie industry to be successful, so I'm not saying put the rose tinted glasses on and just write a good review no matter what, but I am saying be objective and be fair and understand to some extent that there are movies that aren't going to be Citizen Kane and are never meant to be that. And that's okay. Like again, to stay on Godzilla because it's a good example. It's never, aside from the first one that came out, it's never been a big artistic undertaking regarding the story. It's always been cheesy popcorn movie flick. And if you don't understand that, if you're an Arturian critic who spends your life in movies and you don't understand that about Godzilla and you're writing a, a bad review about Godzilla because it's story, you just might be an idiot. And I say that in the friendliest terms possible. You might be like Rain Man when it comes to movie reviews. You might be able to count the matchsticks on the ground after the boxes fell without just looking at it for a second. But your social skills might suck, and you may not have had a kiss, and your first kiss might be in an elevator in Las Vegas with a very attractive woman, and you might just be saying, "Uh-oh, uh-oh." Yeah, Dustin Hoffman, you certainly deserved Best Actor for that performance. And yes, Rain Man did deserve to win Best. It won Best Picture in '88. Was it '88? Yeah. Anyways, that's it for me, guys. Thanks for listening. And if you watched this far, awesome. I know this was a long one. I just had a lot to say. Spot me a like and